The following is a quarantine recording presented to you in around sound. It was recorded with whatever was lying around.
Lady don't take no shit, insist on respect the sister, walk around like a womanish. She won't speak unless it's something worth saying, don't play. The girl take herself so seriously, people stare curiously. She got a natural way, her hips sway furiously. Yeah, the luxuriously, carries herself like the cutest, most prettiest thing you see this side of the bay.
Hey, this is Lady Don't Take No, your weekly roundup of all of the real and none of the fake. I'm your host, Alicia Garza. This show is pro-black, pro-queer, proudly feminist, and pro-do what you like. Every week, you're going to get the best of what goes on in my head, what we're loving on, what we're hating on, what we might be, and what we ain't going to do. Politics, pop culture, pandemics, and power, we cover it all. We are recording from Oakland, California, the center of the known universe, where we are dealing with Rona and rebellion. It's a challenging time, a changing time, a time of transformation. It's all the things all the time nowadays, but we're going to help you understand the dynamics of this time every single week. So be sure to tune in, tell a friend, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. We do it for the culture, so the pod is free 99, because we know that with a country in chaos, the least we could do is keep you from putting your money anywhere else than where it's needed.
She ain't no innocent, Hello Kitty chick. She's committed sins and ain't finishing. But because of her disposition, she ain't subject to criticism.
Our guest this week is an equal rights advocate, a 3-time Emmy-nominated actress, and an Emmy-winning producer. You better go. You better go. Many of you know her through her groundbreaking role of Sophia Bursette on Orange is the New Black, and she has been nonstop ever since. Just last week, Netflix dropped Disclosure, the critically acclaimed documentary taking an in-depth look at Hollywood's depiction of transgender people. My guest is the first openly transgender person to appear on the covers of Time magazine, British Vogue, Cosmopolitan. Damn it, I had to snap to every single one because let me do it again because I said that my guest is the first openly transgender person to appear on the covers, not the pages now, the covers of Time magazine, British Vogue, Cosmopolitan. Listen, damn it, I just have to say her name, Laverne Cox. Laverne, welcome to the pod.
Thank you, Alicia. My goodness, that was a lovely introduction. How are you today?
I am so happy to be here with you. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm a little jet lagged and a little out of it, but I'm going to do my best.
You know what? You're already doing it. So let's get in, because I know that jet lag feeling ain't no joke. So let's, warm it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. I ask every one of our guests, because we are in the middle of the Rona, I'm just really curious, what has your quarantine life been like? And have you developed any unique habits live and direct from Miss Rona?
Live and direct from Miss Rona. Unique habits. It's been such a roller coaster. I'm so loving solitary life, though. I live alone. I don't have a partner. I'm kind of loving it. I've been doing all this press for disclosure from my glam room and shooting like back-to-back Zooms and like maybe changing a blazer or a wig between. And I'm loving it. It's kind of weird. I kind of love not leaving my house, which is kind of scary. I had to fly to New York for some personal business. So I'm in New York now. And that was weird, getting on a plane for the first time.
I bet.
Like,
Did you have a face shield? Were you all in the hazmat suit?
I was not full Naomi Campbell. But I've loved Naomi Campbell since I knew she existed. But I love her so much more like every day. Yes. Like Naomi Campbell through pandemic has been like, I love Naomi Campbell so much. But I wore gloves and I wore 2 masks and then I have a little.
You know what? I'm here for it. You're like quarantine, but make it fashion.
a little fashion. But that's what Naomi Campbell's making it couture.
You know what I'm saying?
She's a supermodel, of course. I mean, she's Naomi Campbell.
She was on before we was on. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Oh, yes.
She was like, y'all playing with all these germs. I'm not playing games with these germs.
No. Oh, I love Naomi Campbell. Just shout out to Naomi.
Me too. Yes. Me too. But don't let her throw her phone at me, man, because we don't do that here in the town. Okay, well, let's switch to guilty pleasures. So, I have developed, I don't know if they're guilty pleasures per se, but they're things that I probably wouldn't have made time for before that now I'm just all obsessed with. And I'm going to go with like my garden. I'm actually trying to grow stuff. So last week we were on the pod with my sister Mia, and I was asking her about the cabbage worms and what you do about the cabbage worms. And she was like, girl, pick them off. I was like, who got time for all that? But don't you know, today I was in the garden picking them little worms off the back of my collards and my kale. Do you have any guilty pleasures that Miss Rona has given you?
I love that. I live in a condo, so I can't garden. My mother is obsessed with gardening, though. When she retired 8 years ago now, I think even before she retired, but the garden is her life, and she grows collards, she grows mustards, her mustard greens, girl.
I know, it's tearing it up.
So good.
Tearing it up.
Guilty pleasures during quarantine. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos. Oh my God, I'm following like some YouTube beauty guru scandals right now. That's really the guilty pleasure. It's like so messy in the beauty community on YouTube now. Do you follow any of that?
I don't. YouTube is not my guilty pleasure because I get too much 5G YouTube logic, so I just be leaving YouTube alone. But give me the scoop. What's going on with all the beauty drama? Maybe I'll dip on over there.
So, there was this thing called Dramageddon a year ago where, oh my God, Tati Westbrook started it. She's this beauty influencer who, I can't believe I'm talking about this in public. Yeah. She started it with a 20-minute, 40-minute video about this guy named James Charles, who is also a beauty influencer, and accused him of some stuff. And then he came out and basically like with receipts and disproved everything she said. And then this other beauty guru, Jeffree Star, got into the mix. It's messy. It's so messy. It's so messy. And now, and the Pinkett Smiths, the Smiths, Jada and Jaden got involved with this other dude named Shane Dawson who collaborated with Jeffree Star. And because there's a video that surfaced, a lot of videos of Shane.
Where he's doing too much with Willow?
There's blackface videos and a lot of racist videos that have surfaced. But then there was a video, unfortunate video, when she was 11. I can't even say it out loud. It's bad. And Jada came out and said something. Jaden came out and said something. It is like a full hot mess. It's like a lot of it's sad, and then some of it's like messy. It's like that reality show that you can't look away from.
Oh yes.
It's like my Housewives of Atlanta is not going on right now. So I'm just observing, and I hope by talking about this publicly, I don't get sucked into any of it. I'm just an outside observer watching the drama. Please do not bring me into any of this. Like, I have a drama-free life. I have no drama in my life. I'm just watching as an observer.
Okay. And that's how it shall be. So let's talk about your activism. You've become super involved in a whole range of causes, issues that range from changing the rules to changing culture and going back again. So talk to us a little bit about what inspires your activism, because I know, there's a lot of people out there that are like, I'm just not getting involved in politics. I'm just trying to make my money and live my life. So what's inspiring your activism, and what are you most passionate about right now?
It's so interesting when I think about me as an activist. I think my job really is with the platform I have, trying to elevate issues and elevate voices. That is really what I think my job is as an activist more than anything. When I got involved with the Supreme Court Title VII case last year, my job was to make sure everyone knew that the case was happening, as many people as I could make aware of it. Mm-hmm. I also feel like I'm an educator. My mom was a teacher, and that I feel like a lot of the work that I do is about consciousness raising and education. So I think with the platform I have, that is the work. And then there are policies that I'm concerned about as well. it's really interesting. I mean, I went to DC 4 years ago in 2016. There was a bill introduced called the LGBTQ Data Inclusion Act, which is a bill that was advocating for LGBTQI folks being counted in the census, the 2020 census.
I love that. Mm-hmm.
The bill was introduced. There was no real traction to have the bill happen. But then there was a lot of work behind the scenes it was looking like it could possibly happen. And then this administration stopped that, of course. So we still don't have an accurate count of how many LGBTQI folks are in the country because we don't ask the question on the census. We have guesstimations from the Williams Institute, which has been doing great work around data inclusion, but we know that the census is about allocation of resources. So when you don't count people, there are resources that particular communities don't get. Kerry Washington made this beautiful point that we're looking at now with COVID. Like some communities have a deficit of ventilators, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of those deficits of ventilators in certain communities are about the census data from 10 years ago and how many people filled out that census and how in the allocation of the resources of ventilators. So it's little things like that. It's school funding. The census is so important. So I hope people, if you haven't filled out your census yet, they've extended the deadline, that you fill it out. I'm passionate about voting. I think everyone should be voting this year, particularly. And even if you're not inspired by the top of the ticket, I'm not. I can't believe I've been saying that publicly, but when a pandemic happens, you just, girl, you get to a point where you just don't. And I've been feeling emboldened by the protesters. I'm not Joe Biden. I don't see it for Miss Joe, but
I don't think Miss Joe sees it for herself, honey. But that's another conversation.
However, I'm going to vote for Joe. I'm voting for Joe, and I am down ballot. It is so crucial this year, especially in our state legislators, right? Who we elect this year will be drawing the congressional maps for the next 10 years. We know that the past 10 years have been gerrymandered the House, right? Gerrymandered the House. And so now I'm not talking to the House of Representatives, I'm being colloquial. So we need to make sure we're registered and we vote. I think we should vote for Biden. Girl. Yeah. But we need to make sure that we are voting down ballot, particularly for our state legislators, that the people who are drawing our maps this year are crucial for, again, allocation of resources. We'll think our Congress be gerrymandered again for 10 more years. Supreme Court hasn't done much around gerrymandering. So these are the things that I want to use my platform to encourage people to do. And then in this moment too, I think it's incumbent upon all of us as we are having another reckoning around race, right? It's like, really, another one?
I'm reckoned out.
Right? That we ask ourselves, what is my part? What am I doing to be anti-racist? Yep. What am I doing to perpetuate white supremacist ideas? And I think it is every single one of us is raised who was raised in America is raised with the values of white supremacy, is raised with the values of transphobia, sexism, homophobia, straight up sexism and misogyny. What are we doing to unlearn those things? I think this is the work. It really is. And then how do we change the systems? How do we change power? That is the question, because I think a huge part of it is about changing money in politics, right? That if we can pass HR 1, right? Obviously, the House of Representatives passed it. If we can flip the Senate and flip the White House, maybe we can get HR 1 passed, which probably should go further, but automatic registration, voter registration at 18 years old, that changes the way elections are financed. These things are huge. We have a federal standard around voter ID laws with that bill. There's a lot of good stuff in that bill. So I think, again, but we have to vote. We have to vote.
That's right. So do I just get to call you like a democracy defender? Is that what we're up to right now?
We all want to defend democracy. This is we are representative democracy. And it's so funny, even though I've understood, how racism works and how our country was built on the backs of slaves, there's something in theory about this country that is quite beautiful, but that is dependent on a representative democracy. And we don't really have that right now. Like, right, we have it in theory, but what we have is a government that serves the interest of very few people, the corporations and rich people and billionaires. That is the truth. What girl? We had that corporate bailout at the beginning of Corona, right? The corporations, girl, like the gag is the corporations got their bailout and Congress was like, we're good. We're not coming back to Washington. Congress was like, what? Right. And like 40 million people have filed for unemployment. If this doesn't like awaken us to what is really going on, right? There is a global pandemic, record, like exceeding the Great Depression, unemployment, period. These are the facts. And Nancy Pelosi, bless her heart, she can't get everybody back to Washington to pass a bill for working people. We can't expand healthcare when 122,000 people have died, 2 million people have been diagnosed with coronavirus. We can't figure out. We can't get it together?
No, I mean, these people are bizarre. And then they go try to cut this little $1,200 check and tell you, hey, don't spend it all in one place, though. like, what are we doing? I was like, wait a minute. And that was back in April. And that little $1,200 been gone. That was gone at the end of the month.
Most people's rent is more than $1,200, too. So that's just, I mean...
Period.
So the voting becomes, I know our system is broken. I know part of it's broken because enough of us are not engaged. If more of us were engaged and more of us voted, and this is a Democratic problem and it's a Republican problem. So, right. So both of them are bought and paid for. So we have to get candidates in office who maybe will do the will of the people and not the will of corporations. And that's a tall order. Right. I mean, it's a tall order, but I think us not being engaged is not the answer.
I really appreciate you saying that for a lot of reasons. So one, I was reflecting a couple of weeks ago that there's so much tragedy that we have experienced this year. I feel like this year has been it's almost like what I call, when they talk about your Saturn returns or whatever. And the way I described it when I was going through that, I was like, look, it was kind of like Mr. T would put you in a to but then kiss you on the forehead and be like, you're going to be all right. I feel like 2020 is like a pro wrestler who want to body slam you, right? And then put some salt in the wounds. That's how I feel like 2020 has been. Wow. But one of the things I was reflecting on is you're right. After they did that first bill, Congress went home and they were like, we're not coming back. We in the Hamptons, child. We good, right? But what actually forced them to come back and do their job was a tragedy. It was the murder of George Floyd. It was the rebellion that has kicked off across the world, where folks literally made folks go back to work to do their damn jobs, to legislate and make new rules. However, it's never lost on me that, we have this ongoing problem where we run into the streets when a Black cisgender man is killed. But Breonna Taylor's killers are still free. And frankly, they still have jobs. Tony McDade's killers, we haven't even heard nothing about them, right? And there have been, in the last 4 months, at least 5 Black trans women who have been killed.
16 trans women this year so far. 16 trans women
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to talk about that. But I want to talk about this differently because I want Congress to do their job, and I want Congress to do their job for everybody. I don't want to just talk about deaths of Black trans people. This is the last day of Pride, and I saw something recently from my sister Raquel Willis Congratulations, sis, by the way, for the communications at the Ms. Foundation. You know, you doing it too.
I knew she told me she had an announcement coming up. I didn't know that. Raquel,
you know, boss business as per usual. But Raquel was on the internets talking about how we just can't talk about trans people as if the only expectation for folks' lives is that you will die, right? So that hit me in my gut. I was like, you know what? You are correct. Just like we can't keep talking about police violence or state violence as if it's just Black men out here getting killed. So here's what I want to ask you, Laverne. What would a world where Black trans folks were able to live full and dignified lives, what would that look like? And what do we need to do to get there?
It would look like Black trans folks who are in the hood not fearing for their lives when they step out of their front door, being catcalled and harassed. So many, and girls will testify to this all in the hood, in hoods all over the country, that they will be harassed 1 second by a group of Black men. And then when that Black man is by himself, he's trying to holler.
Period.
Trans women will testify to this. Latina trans women will testify to this all over the country. So we need to, people need to stop killing us, and people need to stop harassing us. And so there's an issue of toxic masculinity, patriarchy that is killing Black trans women. So and just trans women in general, like of all races, right? Yeah. So there's a conversation about misogyny we just stop being misogynist. Just stop, like, me existing in public space should not be a threat. So many times, I remember I was when I lived here in New York City back in the day, and I just remember walking in the street, and then I would hear people like harassing me, misgendering me, and get the hell out of here, get the fuck out of here. While I'm walking down the street, I'm like, where do you get out of where?
Where I'm supposed to go, correct.
No, but that was so, like, they just didn't want to see me walking, trying to get from point A to point B to get to my job or get to wherever I was going or be on the subway. There's so many people who literally don't want us to exist. And it's like, that is the issue. Right? There's a threat somehow, and there shouldn't be a threat, right? That me existing in public space and trans women existing in public space should not be a threat to you, but for whatever reason it is. And so I think I've literally been talking about this for years, and I just haven't seen the conversation among cisgender straight men. Mark Lamont Hill has been so great. He's one of the few people, I feel like he needs to gather his boys together and they need to have a conversation. Maybe I think I'm going to email him after this and like, you should get the guys together and
have a real talk conversation.
That really is a huge piece of it. We know too that violence against trans people is also about employment. It's about safety in school. 78% of trans kids are bullied and harassed in school, 78%.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep.
It's about access to housing and healthcare. So all these things are connected, but an ideal world is where we can live our dreams, or we can like not worry about being harassed on the street, harassed in schools, whether we're going to like make it home alive. I mean, like just real basic stuff, but then having opportunities so we can thrive and show our talent and our brilliance. And there's such brilliant, amazing trans people out there who just need a shot, who need an opportunity, and love and just all the things.
I'm here for this. I'm here for this vision.
But safety is such a basic, crucial beginning of that, where it's like, instead of like harassing a trans woman and misgendering her on the street, you look good, sister, or don't say anything. And because honestly, we don't need the catcalling. We don't need it. Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Just let me be. Like, I really
just let me live.
Let me live. Literally, let me live.
I love that.
There's something going on around violence in general, right? And we talk about Black Lives Matter, and then I'm so sick of people saying, well, more Black people kill each other. But what are the conditions? What are the material conditions?
Which ain't fucking true.
But then what are the conditions if that is indeed happening, or when it does happen, because it does happen sometimes, what's going on? What is going on in neighborhoods that have schools that haven't been funded, where there's just a sense of hopelessness and businesses have fled, and like what is going on, and why there's just there's a consistent disregard for Black life. There just is. We see it over and over and over again, and it's devastating. This Elijah McClain thing.
Oh, it's super heartbreaking.
I haven't been this destroyed. It's become too much once more, and the child was like coming from the store with headphones on. Like, I mean,
and talked about their boundaries, and like this was a child that played violin to animals in animal shelters.
5'7", 140 pounds, and you injected them with ketamine?
I mean, it's legit proof that it's actually not about what Black folk do, right? It's just about the very fact that we are trying to exist.
And I tell you, I was walking down the street today and I had music on, and I was like, I need to turn the music off. It's like, what happens? And I'm like, everybody's got a mask on now, but like, what happens? Not that like, it's the trauma of that. I'm still Black, like walking down the street with headphones on. And I'm like, what message does this send to us constantly? If I'm going through this,
that's right.
Everybody must be, how do we process this? How? And everybody who wants to say this statistic or that, we keep seeing it. We keep seeing Black people murdered. And
that's right.
It is.
That's right. That's right. I know. There's a lot on our hearts and in our spirits right now. And it feels like it's a weird place to be, because on the one hand, it feels like the world is ripe for change. And on the other hand, it's like feeling like you're not safe anywhere. And the juxtaposition of being on the verge of change, but also still being a casualty of change, is overwhelming. It's overwhelming.
I'm sorry. I just
don't be sorry. Don't be sorry.
It's just, when do I even let this out? You know, like when do we have a moment to? It's just trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. It is traumatizing seeing people murdered on camera over and over again.
That's right. That's right.
It's like this is years now. When Tamir Rice was murdered, that video, I wish I'd never seen that video. That video haunts me
to this day.
A child. How do you don't unsee it, and then nothing happens. Nothing happens. Mm-hmm. And we cannot let this moment pass into like some status quo bullshit again. Right. We just can't.
That's right. Listen, I'm not crying right now because I had a real good, blubbery, ugly one this morning when I woke up. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like literally and truly. I went to get my prayers on and I put my head on the floor and just bawled. I bawled for damn 20 minutes at least. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important for people to understand that I've always had this tension where I feel like Black folks were expected to hold the world on our shoulders, and we're expected to be stoic and to be the moral compass for this country. And also we're fucking being hunted. And that's just fact. And I think it's important for people to know that, like, that's what we carry every day. That's what we carry every day. So everything in this moment that we're feeling, from Tamir to Oscar to Ayana, you know, to Brianna, like that baby was asleep in her bed. And then they try to weave a whole story, right? People try to do a whole thing.
I am so angry right now. And I feel like I can't. And girl, I don't know if you struggle with this, but I feel like I'm a Black woman. They already say I'm angry. I go on TV smiling and I'm an angry Black woman.
Yeah.
And it's so, I have such a knee-jerk reaction about not getting angry in public. It's so deep. And it's like, I'm pissed right now. I'm pissed.
I know.
But I'm trying to be magnanimous, and it's just like, and I have this, like, I can't get angry. I have to, people hear my tone, and girl, it's like,
I know.
Do you struggle with that? Or do you?
All the time. Yeah. You know what I get? I get that I'm cold and unapproachable. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm actually just trying to live, but I don't live for you. So that's the difference, right? And all the ways that I contort and reorganize myself for you to be comfortable, you're never going to fucking be comfortable. So why don't I just do me?
Yeah.
And, you know, once you get to know me and be cool with me, like, we cool for life. Like, that's how it is. So yes.
Can I tell you, Alicia, that like so often people are like, you know, how can I be successful? How can I, like, you know, be like Laverne? Like I meet young people like this, and I'm like, I went to a boarding school for high school with mostly white kids, and I learned how to make white people comfortable.
Me too.
This should not be the secret to success in America. As a Black person, learning how to contort ourselves so that white people are comfortable. But this is the strange shit that has been a huge part of my life.
Yep, mine too. I feel like we need a whole session on this shit. We just need a whole session on this shit. I don't want to let you go without talking about disclosure, because, you know, part of what happens here is we don't just get fed these stories about what it means to be palatable to other people, but the stories that people watch on television and in movies every single day are stories that paint us as criminals, as deviants, as people to be feared. And that's what shapes our behavior, right? So in the same way that my mom used to tell me to cross my legs, you know, no matter what I was doing, no matter where I was, I could be watching TV by my damn self. She'd be like, cross your legs. I'd be like, why? Right? Well, all of that, it's like, it's a reciprocal relationship. It's like a cup pouring water into each other.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I loved about Disclosure. I loved how clear and present this documentary really talks about the power and impact of stories on real people's lives.
Yes.
So I'm wondering if you can talk to me a little bit about how this project came to be, how you got involved in it, and also where can people watch it? Because people need to know all about this. It was incredible.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. People can watch it on Netflix, streaming right now in 150 countries, which is amazing.
Hey.
This project started, it started when I was on the cover of Time magazine 6 years ago. And Sam Feder, who directed Disclosure, saw that cover with the headline, The Transgender Tipping Point, and saw that there was the beginning of unprecedented visibility of transgender people, more visibility than we'd ever seen before of trans folks in mainstream media. And he's aware that whenever a marginalized community comes to the forefront, it is more visible, inevitably there's backlash. And he was like, there's more to this story, and I want to tell that. And he's always wanted to do something that looks at the history of trans folks in Hollywood, something like The Celluloid Closet, or Ethnic Notions. What Celluloid Closet is a film that looks at the history of gay and lesbian folks in film, and Ethnic Notions by the late great Marlon Riggs looked at the history of how Black folks were represented on screen. And Sam wanted to do something like that for trans folks. And so this has been a dream of his for years, but he started the research about 5 years ago. And 3 years ago, he did a presentation at Outfest, and I happened to be in the audience.
Oh my gosh.
just totally randomly. And I had literally just been talking to my manager about doing something on trans history in media. I was thinking maybe it could be a limited series or something. Sam did this presentation. And I was like, oh, this is no accident. Met him afterwards. We met a week later, and yeah, came on board. And the beautiful thing, there's so many beautiful things for me about disclosure, but every single person interviewed on camera is transgender. Most of the crew behind the scenes is also trans. And in the case when we couldn't find someone trans, Sam had this great idea of having a fellowship program where the cisgender person would train a trans person. Amazing. And this story of disclosure is structured through the memories of trans folks interacting with media over its, film over its 120-year plus history. Mm-hmm. And trans folks, some version of trans folks, traversing gender expectations exists from the very beginnings of film, which was a beautiful thing to learn.
I love that. Well, I can tell you that each and every one of those stories that you talked about, from the, Brandon Tina story to, Paris is Burning, to, there were so many that actually politicized me growing up, and, made me want to be a better sister and a better friend and a better homie and a better community member. And I'm just so appreciative that you have added this to the canon of how it is that we understand media literacy, right? But also how it is that we challenge this notion that every fucking thing you see on television doesn't itself have a political agenda. So I'm so deeply grateful to you for that.
Thank you. The reception to the film has just kind of been overwhelming. It's been so beautiful.
It's fantastic.
And people are having so many aha moments watching it and are coming to such new spaces of critical consciousness, which is what we hoped for, and it's happening. And that is just, I am so humbled by the whole experience. I really am just so humbled.
It's fantastic. And I don't even like documentaries like that. So, if I'm telling you I liked it, I really did like it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And just like that, it's time for our weekly roundup of all the things Lady just ain't gonna do this week. Let's start with this one. Because you know what Lady don't like? Donald Trump attacks on Black Lives Matter as an organization and as a motherfucking crew. Did y'all get my Tupac reference there? I hope so, because really and truly, this is reminiscent of the East Coast, West Coast beef of the 1990s, except this round is the President of the United States and an organization that I helped to found in 2013, plus the co-founders ourselves. What kind of shit? Your boy Donald Trump is out here talking about Black Lives Matter is a hate symbol. And then his press secretary, Kayleigh McEnany, doubled down on it and said the president wasn't talking about the people. He was talking about the organization. Girl, that don't make it better. The people are the organization are the people. That's how this works. To make matters worse, a week ago, Bill Barr was out here in these streets. Yes, Bill Barr, who heads the Department of Justice. He is the Attorney General for the United States. Bill Barr was out here in these streets talking about, we are going to form a task force to investigate the radical left, which they call Antifa. I'm not going to go back into that again because we already know the deal here, folks. This is the same playbook from 2016. They will demonize anything that is pushing for real change in this country while they protect the real terrorists. The question for our movement is this. Are we going to look at it, watch it, say, that's a shame? Or are we going to take it seriously? This is a man who puts children in cages and separates them from their mothers. This is a man who did not care about the photo of Oscar Alberto Martinez Ramirez and his 23-month-old daughter, Angie Valeria, when their bloated bodies were found alongside a river near Brownsville, Texas. A direct result of this president's cruel and inhumane policies against people who are seeking refuge and freedom. Y'all thought we were going to get left out of that? We can't celebrate the courage and determination of Black people fighting for all of our freedom and continue to be silent in the face of attacks on those same people. This is Trump's regular playbook, but we can change ours. Don't think for 1 second that this president will not try everything he can to defeat this movement as we work to defeat his re-election bid. Don't shake your head in disgust. It is time to get busy. Speaking of getting busy, let me rant about something else for a quick minute. You know, the news emerged a couple of weeks ago that Senator Lindsey Graham, a Republican from South Carolina who took over lifetime racist Senator Strom Thurmond's Senate seat in 1994, well, the news came out that he may, in fact, visit male sex workers. Why does this matter? Well, Senator Graham has championed a hateful agenda targeting LGBT communities for most of his tenure as a legislator. In 2006, Graham supported a proposed constitutional amendment opposing marriages of same-sex couples. He's opposed anti-discrimination legislation against LGBT communities. He has opposed the ability of LGBT people to adopt children. He calls himself a moderate Republican, but his record is anything but moderate. All right, you ask, but why, girl? Why are we talking about Senator Graham today? Well, let me break it down because we just wrapped up Pride Month, and so it's good to know our history if we want to know where we're going, right? Well, here's the deal. In June of this year, gay adult film star Sean Harding alleged that Lady G is the preferred nickname of Senator Graham with male sex workers. The story gets more sordid, and truth be told, they are allegations, but I don't have time to detail all that here. You can check out the Washington Post if you want the rest of that story. But let me tell you a different story so I can get this rant out the way. This week, I experienced a lecture that was given to people who referred to Senator Graham as Lady G, and I gotta be honest, I thought it was egregious, frankly. It was the lecture of that type that referenced First Lady Michelle Obama's comments, where she said that when they go low, we go high. I hope she regrets that comment, because not only is it grossly taken out of context, but now it's being used to obscure what is actually important. Some of us may feel uncomfortable referencing the senator's alleged sexuality because perhaps that is engaging in the same kind of shaming that Graham has in actuality been legislating his entire damn career. So how do we resolve this? My answer is simple. You cannot address the elephant in the room if you don't call it by its name. Look, when Strom Thurmond was out here having Black babies, even though he was also championing segregation, y'all was out here talking about what? When they go low, we go high? Hell no, fuck that. We have to be courageous enough to tell the truth. And that truth might hurt. There's too much polite bullshit on the left that results in a whole lot of holding absolutely nobody accountable for the crimes they commit against vulnerable communities. Do I think Graham should be subject to the same kind of ridicule as he himself encourages through his hateful policies? I don't know. I think Graham should be held accountable, period. We need to keep the same energy for his contradictions and the impact of those contradictions as we have to be able to tell people to be nice and swallow their oppression with a glass of fucking eggnog. It is not shaming a man to address the fact that there are real questions about why his legislative agenda is in contradiction to his alleged lifestyle. And frankly, even if it is, so the fuck be it. He should be shamed, as my mama would say. Y'all gonna leave it to queer people to call Lady G out? That makes you a passive observer with the privilege to say things like, we can't engage in the same behavior as they do. Fuck out of here with that. Don't be so concerned with civility when there are people who are literally putting other human beings in concentration camps. When they go low, we better get the fuck strategic. Also, note to self, if we are going to quote Martin Luther King, let's quote all of his speeches. This one is my favorite. It's one that I use every Black History Month to talk about Black futures. First, I must confess that over the last few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in the stride toward freedom is not the white citizens counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I can't agree with your methods of direct action, who paternalistically feels he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by the myth of time and who constantly advises the Negro to wait until a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. Now, here's what King meant by that. Find the backbone to call out the oppressor's oppression. And I promise you, I will be the first to donate not just to Lady G's therapy, but I will also donate to the families of all those LGBT people who were denied the right to start a family, denied the right to have a legally recognized partnership, beaten up and murdered because some asshole thought that their so-called Christian values should deny people the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Don't forget the LGBT people who kill ourselves every day just because we feel like we don't fit. I'll save my compassion for Senator Graham when he's no longer making laws that impact my life and deny me my humanity. All right, I took it there, though, but I had to, child. I had to. Somebody had to say it. I don't want a dinner party my way to liberation. I've already become okay with the fact that some people just ain't gonna be happy about my right to self-determination. I hope we can get along, but okay, child, if we can't, I'm not losing no sleep. My friend Camila Concepcion, a Latinx trans woman, killed herself earlier this year. So no, ain't no half-stepping. And frankly, when they go low, I'm ready to get strategic and I'm ready to fight back and I'm ready to call you out on your bullshit because that's all it is, bullshit. Let's transition because here's what Lady wants more of this week. So we touched on this a bit in our interview with the amazing Laverne Cox, but Lady needs more disclosure in her life. That's right. Disclosure is an excellent documentary featuring Laverne Cox that breaks down how the stories that we tell about trans people, their lives, their struggles, and their right to exist shape laws and policies that impact our lives. Cuddle up and watch it this weekend. There are parts that are rough. I mean, there are pieces that are tough to watch and they're painful, but the destination is well worth it. Kudos to the Disclosure team for reclaiming the narrative about trans lives, centering trans voices throughout the entire film, hiring trans people, and when not possible, apprenticing trans people. Well done, bravo, brava, bravissimo, as my friend Rashad Robinson would say. I don't want to go. I don't want to. But my bestie, actually today is her birthday. Shout out to Marisa. Happy 41st, girl. And yes, I'm using numbers because you earned every last one. But it is her birthday and I have been selected a roaster and I don't roast. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do. But I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I got to figure out how to go get mean real quick. Can you tell the people where to find you on the socials and how to follow all the dope work you're doing?
I'm Laverne Cox on Twitter, the real Laverne Cox, I think on Facebook, Laverne Cox on Instagram. I'm on TikTok now, Laverne Cox. And,
I'm not going back. It was too much for me. I love you so much.
You are amazing. I love you, Alicia.
More, please,
yeah,
soon.
We will. We'll keep
Okay. That's it for Lady Don't Take No, but I'll be back here every single Friday morning to accompany you where you used to have a commute. We appreciate you joining us, and let's keep the conversation going. Tell us what's on your mind, tell us what you like, and tell us what you just ain't gonna take no more of. On Twitter, we're at Lady Take. On Insta, we're at Lady Don't Take No Pod. We're also on Facebook at Lady Don't Take No Podcast by Alicia Garza. We post ways to do something about the things that you hear on this show all over our social media. So if we got you amped up today, check out the socials to find out how you can take action. Please subscribe and write us a review and let the people know what you've heard here today. Our producer is Phil Circus. Our incredible theme is by Latyrix. This pod is supported by the Black Futures Lab. And I'm your host, Alicia Garza. Remember, now is not the time to be a passive observer in your own life. Black lives are being extinguished every day. Women are still fighting for the right to control our bodies. LGBT people are being attacked and murdered by people who can't deal with their own desires and who legislate their deaths with gusto. The name of the game in 2020 is backbone. Stop killing people, celebrate trans lives and contributions, and fight like hell for this movement like your life depends on it, because it does. That's right, I said it, because lady don't take no.
Lady don't take no shit, insist on respect the sister, walk around acting womanish. She won't speak unless it's something worth saying, don't play. The girl take herself so seriously. People stare curiously. She got a natural way, her hips sway furiously. Yeah, the luxurious. Carries herself like the cutest most.
Love y'all.